Hey y'all, I wanted to come here tonight because it's absolutely incredible night. I went for a walk on the beach and it's just beautiful. And so I'm gonna flip this around real quick, but this is where I'm walking. So it's a beautiful path from the beach. I'm on Sullivan's Island in Charleston, South Carolina. And one thing that I was just thinking about as I was walking on the beach was the phrase in the Bible where it says, a peace that passes all understanding. That's been coming to my mind a lot, and I wanted to kind of just break that down, just what that means to me, and hopefully something that I say can you can benefit and use in your life. So when you think about that phrase, if you grew up Christian, well, like me, that you read that a lot, and a lot of people think have heard that before, just because it's, first of all, it's a beautiful phrase, but when you think about that, a peace that surpasses all understanding, basically what that means is that understanding that level of peace is impossible. Okay, right? So we'll flip it around. A peace that passes all understanding. It's an understanding that's not possible. We're not able to understand that level of peace. We may think we do, but we don't understand that level of peace that is promised to us. And so maybe you've thought about that, maybe you've thought about it that way, but, well, listen to that bird. That's beautiful. Even though we may have said those words before, have you ever felt that? That's fun. Have you ever felt what it feels like to have a peace without understanding? That surpasses all understanding. Have you ever felt a peace that understanding it in our minds is impossible? It's come from somewhere other than ourselves. Have you ever felt that? I would venture to say that most people have not felt that because it's that rare. Okay, it was getting a little dark, but it was a beautiful walk, so I'm not quite sure where I left off, so hopefully I can figure it out. But what I wanted to share about a peace that passes all understanding is understanding that part of it. If you switch it around to truly understand kind of what, it's kind of funny because you can't understand that level of peace. Okay, talking about peace that surpasses all understanding, if we switch it around, to me, what it means is that level of understanding is not possible in the human mind. That level of peace. That peace. We're not capable of understanding where it comes from, how in the midst of incredible suffering, how can people have peace and be still and be content? I guess my bigger question is have you ever felt that peace? That peace that surpasses all understanding. Have you felt that peace? And I'm not just saying, oh yeah, I felt it. Like, I'm saying when you know for yourself that you should not have had the peace that you've had or have had, that is very rare. I would say that is very rare. I would say most people wouldn't know how to get to a point where they can experience that type of peace. But it's possible. I felt it. It doesn't mean I am any better by any means. And I've said this before, but I think the more that I learn and the more that I grow, the more I know that I am completely clueless. And the more simple everything becomes, which I think is very, very profound when you really think about it. I've learned a lot, and I've read a lot, and I've learned a lot, and I have purposely not just read, but read with intention. And the more that I learn and the more knowledge that I gain, the more I realize how simple God made it for us through the example of Jesus. So I would ask you, have you ever felt that peace? And if you have, awesome. But if you haven't, we should. We should be experiencing that peace. And the more and more that you make that in your intention, the more peace you'll have in your life, and it will grow to a point where you will not be understand it, because you begin to live in that peace. And if I can give you one practical thing, one practical thing that I can give you, what I believe is to help you get to that level of peace. But doing it is, it takes a lot of work and surrender and dedication, and that is wisdom and discernment. The more discernment that you have, the more peace you will have. They go hand in hand. As you grow in wisdom, your fear starts to go away. Fear of life, fear of things, fear of shame, grief, just fear in general goes away, because it says that the beginning of wisdom, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so that's where you start. You start by fearing God. And you never stop fearing God, but it's a different fear. You no longer, it's a very, very reverent fear. But the point is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So as we grow, that fear starts to go away. And what it brings is power. It brings power in your life, because you can live with peace, you can live with resolve, you can live without fear for the most part. And yes, you can get derailed, and sometimes I derail myself. Actually, most of the time I derail myself. But I know how to get back on the rails, because I know what those rails feel like. Those rails are peace, they're growing in wisdom, they are joy, they are love. And when I live from that space, that is, I'm aligned like a railroad track. I'm in the rails with God. But when I get derailed, I know it, and I feel it, and it hurts, and I have to work through the reasons why I got derailed. But I know what it feels like to be in alignment, and so it's easier for me to get back to that place. And when we get back to that place, when we live in alignment with God, then that peace becomes more and more you live with wonder how you can live with that peace. But wisdom and discernment is what will get you there. Wisdom and discernment is what will get you there. And wisdom is, to me, is being very open. Wisdom is being very open to learning from everybody, because you can learn from everybody. Everybody, every religion, every person, you can learn something, whether what you want in your life to do or what you want in your life not to do. So you can learn from every person, can help you grow. The people that cause you the most angst will probably be the biggest help for growth in your life. But the people that you just are blend in with, that you're not going to learn anything from them. Actually, that's not true. You'll learn what not to do, how you don't want to live your life. Because, and this may cause some, maybe some pushback, but our relationship with God is so personal. It's so personal. And Jesus came to show us what it looked like to have a perfect relationship with his Father. Hold on. Jesus came to show us what a perfect example of a relationship with his Father looks like. And that is available to us as well. So, it is for us, for the meaning of life, is to figure that out. Because when we are aligned with love and God and Source, whatever you want to call it, I like to call it Father, because when Jesus, when he actually taught his disciples, which he wasn't really teaching them how to pray, but he's like, all right, if you need something like wrapped in like with boundaries on it, here's what it is. And he said, when you pray, say, Our Father. And so maybe use that. Maybe start to call him your Father, who is our creator, who is the source of all beings. And when we start to live with a connection that requires wisdom and discernment in our life, in every single aspect of our life, we need discernment. We need discernment about the amount of coffee we drink in the morning. We need discernment how we're going to start our day. We need discernment how we choose to react to our significant other or our kids. Are we going to use discernment and act with patience if they get up late? Like, how you use discernment all day long. So if you want to grow in peace, take that and be aware of how you choose the decisions that you make, because they matter. They matter. Because if you want to live in peace, at the end of the day, it is up to you. And when I say it is up to you, I mean that it is your choice. It's your choice if you are going to live in peace or not. You cannot tell me otherwise. Because if we want to live with a peace that surpasses all understanding, it means that we can't do it. We cannot do it. We cannot have the peace that we truly all want. We can't do it on our own. It is not possible. The only way to have true peace is to completely surrender your life, stop living in fear, and give that up for you to have peace. And it is your decision. It is your choice. That is free will. And Jesus chose peace. He chose love. And his life did not go well. We know that. But in the end, it didn't go well. But I can tell you, while he was living, it went well. He lived in peace. So outwardly, he may have suffered a ton. He may have been alone. His disciples didn't get him. They tried to, but they didn't understand what he meant until after he was gone. So Jesus was alone, isolated his whole life. Yes, he was surrounded by people that loved him, but they didn't get him. Some did more than others. We don't get him. We don't fully understand what it means to live a perfect life. We all mess up, which is completely fine. That's part of living. But the goal of messing up is to learn from it. It's just, sin is nothing more than missing the mark. And it's nothing, I don't say nothing more in the sense that it's not a big deal, because if we constantly miss the mark, then we'll never get closer to the bullseye. So at some point you have to stop missing the mark and hitting the mark, because you have to know what that feeling feels like and move from belief to feeling. It's imperative. If we want to live with peace, you have to move from believing to feeling. And the only way to do that is from wisdom. And wisdom comes from stepping out of your comfort zone. I had to. It was forced on me. I did not choose this. I did not choose to come to an understanding that Jesus did not come to die for our sins. He didn't come to die for our sins. I didn't choose to have that understanding. I didn't have a choice. God told me to stop reading the Bible. And then, of course, when you hear that, you're like, what do you mean he told you to stop reading the Bible? He didn't tell me to stop reading the Bible. That is the problem. I understand all we have is words, but I'm going to still kind of classify myself as a Christian, but not really. But I grew up holding on to people's words and not what was behind the words. I did forever. And it wasn't until I finally was forced to let that go, to be like, what is Jesus really trying to say? What is the Bible really trying to say? And approach it with open eyes. You will be amazed. But you have to let yourself go there. You do. And that is the only way to grow in wisdom. If you do not do that, I believe that you will constantly battle those things in your life that you can't overcome. They will always be in your life. But when you keep growing in wisdom and you experience peace, you know what it feels like, and you start to live more and more in that space, then fear goes away. Judgment goes away. And all that is left is love and following how Jesus lived his life. To me, that is a beautiful example that I can follow, is what God gave us, that beautiful gift, which is a present, which is why it's called presence. His presence is with us. And that means we need to live right now and not worry about the future and not worry about the past, but live right now. And if we live right now, then we will start to think about, what does wisdom look like? Because I'm seeking peace. And so you can't seek peace. It's not like, okay, it's not like, obviously it's not a physical place, but it is a sense of calm that only comes when you don't focus on peace, but you focus on growing, on wisdom, if that makes sense. So that is why if you want peace, you have to be able to expand. And that means, I'm only going to say this because I believe it's truth, and I would love any pushback. I would love to have this conversation with somebody. If you still think that church is a necessity, that it is still necessary, you need to keep growing. Because it is only until that you look at church as potentially not beneficial. If you look at church as beneficial and not necessary, then that is a beautiful road to peace. But that is a very deep question that you can only ask yourself, because I believe growing up the church was necessary, that I had to go to church. Like, that's what was required, that I needed to be in church because that was the only way that I could grow. And that's not true. That is not true. And sometimes, for some of you, maybe this is the first time you've ever heard that, but it's not true. You do not need a pastor to grow in your relationship with God. It doesn't mean that that's bad. And again, hear what I'm saying. I am not saying the words on surface level. There is nothing wrong with listening to a pastor who's continually helping you grow. There's nothing wrong with that. But he is not responsible for your growth. You are. And there may be a point where you are growing faster than he is. So if you are going to measure your growth based on the church that you grow to, you are missing the point. Because our relationship with God is intimately personal. And sometimes we can grow like hockey sticks if we realize who we are in Christ. We are not to love Jesus in the sense that we worship him. Jesus never wanted to be worshipped. He always pointed people to God. Whenever anybody asked him, he was like, why do you call me good? There's nobody good but the Father. It's like pointing at the moon, right? I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. Like, Jesus was simply a pointer to God. That's it. He's saying, hey, this is what it looks like. This is who, living in your complete authentic self, this is what God looks like. Jesus lived that. He was a mirror of God. So if I offended any of you, then you needed to be offended. And I am not holier than thou, and it may right now seem like that, but at some point, somebody needs to stand up and say, like, enough is enough. Okay, delete that. At the end of the day, I want us all to live in peace. I want us all to have a peace that passes all understanding. I want us to have a peace that understanding it is impossible in our minds. I want you to live from that space. And that starts with wisdom, is seeking wisdom. And there are many ways to find wisdom. The ways that I have found, probably for me, well, right now the most important spiritual practice for me is meditation. Meditation has helped me quiet my mind and always feel like I have to have all the answers. Because when like me, I grew up in a Christian home and we read the Bible a lot, and we were always around like Christian friends and church and Sunday school and Wednesday night church and Bible study and all of the stuff. And so we had so much Bible, so much God, like literally put down our throats that I honestly am surprised that I haven't like turned away from it, because I know a lot of people that have, and it's sad. It's very sad, but I understand it. I understand it. At some point it's enough, and it doesn't feel like love, you know? It doesn't feel good to your spirit. And I was told like those things that I just said were wrong and they're from the devil. That couldn't be farther from the truth. Couldn't be farther from the truth. So for me, in my relationship with God, meditation has been incredibly important to me. And I would venture to say that if you do not have time to be still with God, and when I say God is to be still with yourself, then your mind is racing and you live with a pretty good amount of fear, I would say. Meditation is, to me, is one of the only ways to truly to be able to center yourself. And feel that sense of calm and peace.